In this video, we are going to be talking about the Federico Fellini film from 1973, Amarcord, which starred Magali Noel and Bruno Zenin. And my guest today is Dina Morrone. She is an actress and writer. She has appeared in several films, which include Armageddon and The Teddy Bear with Alain Delon. She has also done ADR for several feature films. Most recently is Luca, which I know my son loves a lot. And she is also a contributing writer and executive editor at Eden Magazine. And she wrote a one-person show called The Italian in Me and performed in it, as well as Moose on the Loose, which has been produced in LA, Sudbury, and Thunder Bay. So Dina, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a blast because there's the extra bonus we have is not only are we talking about a Fellini film, but you actually met Fellini, which we begun to talk about before we started to record. So how did this happen? You started to go to a restaurant he frequented and you met him there? Is that what happened?
Well, what happened was prior to being called into his office to meet with him, I had seen him many times at one of the restaurants I used to go to on a regular basis. The reason he went to this restaurant a lot is because the chef owner was from Reggio Emilia, which is where Fellini's from. He's from Rimini. And so his favorite restaurant was this place because he cooked more like a home-cooked meal than a mega restaurant. In fact, the owner was in the kitchen preparing the food with only 2 helpers. He didn't have a staff, so everything he made fresh, and Fellini would go to this place. So I was sitting there and I never bothered him. I never went up to him and said maestro or anything, but I would see him there with his wife Giulietta or his famous lawyer that was with him many times at lunch, and other people that came to interview him or just friends or other Italian directors. So I had seen him. And then I had also seen him in a restaurant one night when he celebrated his birthday. This was prior to meeting him. I was at a restaurant with a friend of mine, and we were seated at a two-top right next to Fellini and Giulietta Mazzina. And they were sitting there having their dinner, and we were right next to them, and in strolled an accordion player and a guitar player. They don't really do this anymore in Rome, but anyway, this was just a couple of years before I met him. Forget which, I think he was celebrating 70 years. I believe he was turning 70. And they walked in and they were like the minstrels, going to the various cafes and playing. And they came in and they started playing songs for the maestro because it was his birthday. So there they were playing, and the maestro was there and people were clapping, maestro, tanti auguri, auguri maestro. So there he was sitting right. So I had these moments in my life where I met Fellini, I saw Fellini. Then I had a moment prior to meeting him that really was kind of I felt like a spiritual, mystical moment. I was kind of down, and it was a Sunday morning, and I went to church in Piazza del Popolo. They have these 2 twin churches. And I used to go to this one of the 2 twin churches, and I was just kind of down, and I went in and I sat near the back, and I wasn't really paying that much attention. And there was a lady in front of me. She was wearing a little moss green hat and a little moss green jacket, very petite and just tiny, a little bit of whitish blonde hair. And in the Catholic Church, when they say, give the sign of peace, I was just down and out like this, and all of a sudden this woman turns around to give me the sign of peace, and it was Giulietta Mazzina, and she says, peace be with you.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's like, amazing.
It's a sign. And it was a sign. The next week I got a call to be in a film, and it's one that I've been speaking to you earlier, was the one where Marcello Mastroianni walked onto the set, but that was that. So I'm just going to fast forward to what happened with Federico Fellini. So it was a very busy time after that. For a couple of years, I was very busy. And I had a commercial agent that back in the day, of course, everything's changed now with the pandemic, but it was a time where you did a lot of cattle calls.
Right.
Go and spend 3 hours at a cattle call, and it was just too time consuming. I was working. So I said to her, just stop calling me for commercials. I'm just, right now I have to focus on other things. And so I got this call, and it was, ciao Dina, call me, Fellini wants to meet with you. I did not return her phone call. I said, Stefania must just be pulling my leg. She must have some commercial I don't want to audition for. So I didn't call her back. And the next day she called me again and she said, Dina, ma che fai? What are you doing? Why didn't you call me back? Fellini wants to see you. I said, Stefania, you're kidding me, right? She goes, no. I said, but you're my commercial agent. She says, I know. He's casting a commercial for Banca di Roma, which was a bank worker at the time. And they were bringing 3 banks together, and he was going to do the commercial. And I said, Fellini's doing a commercial? See, yes, he's doing a commercial. I said, okay, really? Yes, and he wants to meet you. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. Fellini, I didn't believe it.
Right.
He says, no, here's the information. You go Cinecittà, da, whatever, and all the information was there for me to go. I said, okay, that's interesting. So I went out, I bought a dress, and, got all, the role of no name was a girl in a tree. It was La Ragazza, the girl in the tree. That's all.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. No title, no name, whatever. It's a blonde, like a Brigitte Bardot type, kind of a blonde.
Right.
So I, got all dolled up, and I had someone drive me there because I didn't want to go driving myself and sweating and getting there all sweaty. So I had somebody drive me there. We went in, and I walked into the waiting area. It was a big waiting area. And there was his secretary who'd been with him forever, Fiammetta, with red hair. And there were some real dolls sitting there, like women with legs that were, 6 feet long and fully, full breasts, like typical, Anita Ekberg type dolls, like gorgeous. And I walked in, and I'm 5'4", and I'm thin and not, large breasts. And it was just one of those, I don't have chance of getting this. This was like, this is never going to happen. I don't know why I'm here. And I've been to so many of these auditions in Rome where you show up, you're blonde, and there are women that are just, brunettes, and everybody's voluptuous. Everybody looks a certain way.
Yeah.
Well, here we go again. So I gave her my information, and she said, Fellini will be right with you. And I said, oh no, but there's other women before me. She goes like this, no, you're first. And I said, oh, they don't have an appointment with him. They're just here hoping
to get in, right?
Yeah, hoping to get in, that he won't run out of time, and he'll see you. But he's, doing all of this so that they couldn't see or hear.
I see.
So I sat down, and within moments, the door opened, and out walked Fellini. And he said, Signorina, prego. And all of this is in my show. So after that meeting that I had with him, during the meeting, I found out that I wasn't there for the audition for The Girl in the Tree. That had already been precast by somebody who knew, it was an actress that ended up becoming, she was sort of like a big name at the time. She was a really pretty blonde girl, very, tall and perfect for the part. And he told me that I wasn't there for the part. I was there for a 6-part miniseries that he was casting.
Oh.
He had seen my picture in my agent's book. And just to explain that to people who don't know, back in the day, when I was in Rome, all the casting was done through the directors firsthand or their assistant directors. There were wasn't even a handful, maybe like 2 or 3 casting directors in all of Rome, and most of them were for commercials. So in feature film, the director or the assistant director did the selections. And what they would do is they would sit down with your agent, and your agent would schlep, all the books with all the pictures, and they were heavy. And they had the men and they had the women, and they would bring them to a Fellini and Fellini go through the book and pull out the picture. She'd have like your picture in there, 1 or 2 pictures. They would pull out the picture. I want to see this person. I want to see this person. I want to see that person. And so Fellini picked out one of my pictures out of her thing. It's a picture that had my hair up in a bun like this, with glasses and my arms crossed, like with a suit on. It was nothing like I wanted Fellini to see me. I wanted him to see me as a babe with long hair, you know,
Right.
and that's what I thought he was looking for. And so I turn and look on his messy desk, and I see this headshot, and it's just this one with my hair up like that. And I said, Maestro, what are you doing with that ugly picture of me? And he goes, this? And he picks it up and he starts looking at it, and he goes, what are you talking about? This is and he starts telling me what he sees in this picture. And I had told him that he wanted him to see in my portfolio with all my beautiful pictures. And he really did not want to see those pictures. I pushed them on him. And then he just looks at them, and he was bored, and he just kept going, like that. And then he finally says, these are beautiful pictures, but that's what they're just beautiful pictures. They don't say anything to me. But this one here, this one, I see a person, I see a thought, I see a thought process. I wonder what she's thinking, what she's feeling. Is she hurt? Is she sad? Is she thinking about a lover? What is she planning to do next? Now, he saw this in my picture. And then he proceeds to tell me the truth, that it was already precast, that I'm there for this series, this 6-part miniseries that he's casting for Rye, and that he, upon meeting me from the picture, he'd like for me to be in it. But he said to me, when you work for me, I want you to be just like you are when you speak to me today in our meeting. No acting, okay?
Right.
He didn't want people to act. And so that was a big lesson for me. It's, what do we do as performers? Sometimes we try to hide behind a facade. Sometimes we try to be something we're not. In those pictures I brought to him, I thought that's who I was.
Right.
I thought that's who I needed to be, was that blonde that was all flash and no substance. And when I was in his room, I was just a crazy noodle. Like I don't know how to put it. I was an open book.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't acting anything like those pictures that were all like that. I was just Dina, who I really am. Just like him, making fun of myself and telling silly stories about my family in, Canada or Calabria and stuff. So anyway, it never came to be because obviously he died. And so I never got to work with him.
Oh, so this was literally right before he passed. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was supposed to go, this was around July, and he passed at the end of October.
Oh my God.
So what happened was, they were supposed to do this, and right after I met Fellini, around August or September, he got sick. And so after I came back from my summer holidays in Canada, I said, what's happening with that Fellini project? And an inside person from Rye said to me, because it was for Rye Television, said, hey, ma Fellini sta male, Fellini's not well. I don't know if he's gonna be able to do it. It got pushed. So it might happen, I don't know, November if he's better. And he never got better.
Oh my God.
And then he had a stroke and died, yeah.
Oh, wow. So this was like 92, 93, he died, right? So, wow.
93, yeah. It was very sad when he died. And the sad part about it is that I was in Rome, living there, and I came down very sick with an intestinal problem for weeks. And I couldn't go to Cinecittà, to Studio 5, to be there just to, even though you didn't see him, but to go to the visitations.
Oh, right.
People lined up for days. And
oh my God.
To go and see him. So I was bummed that I couldn't do that.
Oh,
but I watched it on television, so.
Wow, what a story. I had no idea that's that's what took place. I mean, what was it like to find it? Like, were you a fan of his, or like even when you were young, like growing up, or was it more, once you got to Italy, or?
Well, what happened was growing up, I had seen a few of his films, but as a younger person, I didn't appreciate them as much because a lot happens in his movies.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of it is straddling fantasy and reality. Yeah. And as a younger person, I was confused by the fantasy. I kept going, what's going on here?
Yeah, because they're so surreal.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wanted linear, I was more into commercial movies and commercial films that had, love stories and comedies that were just straightforward and simple. His films were, I'm just gonna be honest, they were a little bit too elaborate for me.
Right.
And once I got to Italy, then it just became, I watched his movies, then I watched them with different eyes. And I thought,
yeah.
These are just masterpieces. And after Fellini passed, and I moved back to North America, every VHS copy I could find of anything Fellini, I watched. And then DVDs, whatever I could watch. And it became a real eye-opener for me, seeing it in 3 different moments of my life. Pre-knowing anything about Fellini, as a youngster, just going, these are Italian and I love them, but they're a little complex for me. And they're not, but they were. And then in Italy, being an Italian in Rome with the maestro and seeing them different, with a different set of eyes, and then past his death and researching for my play, then I completely different set. So, and now just to meet with you, I revisited the movie Amarcord, and I do have, you can't see behind me, but I have a bookcase there, and I have several DVDs that are Italian DVDs, and I do have 8.5 La Dolce Vita and Amarcord there.
Oh, incredible. That's
so I pulled it out and I just put it in. I'm like, I better watch this because I've seen it 4 times over the course of my life. So I hadn't seen it recently, but it's
incredible.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It is so layered. There's so much going on. It's beautiful. There are adjectives upon adjectives to describe this movie. It's just simply delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. I liked it a lot. I've seen it. This is the second time I saw it. I liked it, and this time I really loved it. But just before we jump into that, I'm curious. Did you ever find out why he brought you in for a commercial that was already cast? If it was for a series, like why did he think he had to do that?
He was using the audition for that commercial to bring in girls to find for his movie.
I see. Okay.
He says, I'm secretly pre-casting a 6-part miniseries for Rai Television. But
I see.
He wasn't talking about it. He just told me that once we were in the office.
Okay.
And hush, hush. Because what you need to know is as soon as Fellini announced a project, there was a lineup out the door.
Oh, right. So then he figured everyone would bug him.
Every shape and size that you could possibly imagine would line up. Maestro, please put me in your movie. Maestro, please put me in your movie.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And so that's what happened. So he didn't announce it yet.
Yeah.
But inside people from Rai knew, and that's why those girls were there.
I see.
99.9% sure those girls were girlfriends of producers and directors from Rai Television, because it had to be, to know about the project, it had to be inside.
So why is Amarcord something that, what is it about it that you really love?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let me just back up a second. So I had seen this movie, I mentioned before, maybe 4 times, and so was my 5th preparing to see it with you. to discuss it with you. So I had seen this movie, and like I said, it didn't mean something to me early on, but then it started to come alive. And before I wrote Moose on the Loose, way before, I remember laughing so hard at a scene where the family is at the dining room table, the kitchen table, eating.
Right.
And I remember at the time, because when you're young and it's your world, your family, you're in it, you don't even see it sometimes. You're
Right.
like, and you don't want to associate with that. But as I got older and I saw it, I just cried. I laughed so hard. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
And
I was too.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is oh my God, this is like every friend's family that I know. And then, I mean, It was so real and brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I remember years later when I was writing Moose, I remembered thinking about that scene at the table and thinking what he pulled off there with that scene, making it so believable and bringing all these colorful characters into this play of mine that represent all these Italian Canadian families with this communication breakdown and making it like that. And one of the things that I loved about it, that I wanted to make sure Moose had in it, and you know, because you were in the play, I didn't want it to be a stereotypical,
right, of course,
Italian family. That is not stereotypical. What he portrays in there with so much, it's so believable.
Yeah.
It's so raw and real. And you laugh at it because it's raw and real. It is not caricature. It is not shtick. I have seen every single one of those people in my life or in a friend's life or in a relative's life
So have I.
at the table in Canada and in Italy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people are for real. And it was a family. It was Fellini's friend, and it was his friend's story. So he had seen that. He lived that. He was there as an outsider. So anyway, when I was writing Moose on the Loose, I remembered that family.
Yeah.
And that just, I used that. I didn't watch the movie, but I remembered it.
I could certainly see the connection, because even when you saw and I thought of Moose on the Loose as well, because as soon as I saw the husband and wife get into this vicious argument, and then a little later on when he gets arrested, the Nazis arrest him, and then his wife is so concerned, where is he? It's 2 a.m. And then he comes home and they embrace. And I thought you have a similar scene with the father comes out of jail and they embrace, it says they hate each other 1 minute and love each other the next, but that's life, people do that's so
that is very Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
And I watching it last night, remember I hadn't seen it in years. I don't even know when I saw when the last time that I saw this movie was, way before I wrote Moose, way before. And last night I was watching it, that scene of the little boy who can't pronounce the Greek words.
Oh, right, in the school, yeah.
And in Timothy, and that Timothy is my world. It's my life. I'm not making any of that Timothy stuff up. That really happened in my family. Oh, so God. I'm watching this scene where the little boy's in school is trying to pronounce this Greek word and he can't say it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the scene in this movie.
Yeah.
It's
amazing how
it really is.
Yeah, these stories that are so personal can then influence us later if you're directing or writing, and we are not necessarily always conscious of that having such an impact on our work. I mean, I don't even know where he found some. I mean, I was like, these couldn't have just been actors. I mean, everyone looked right out of where they were from. I mean, they just the looks on their faces. I mean, I'm not saying every actor looks. I mean, we're all human, right? But they had a certain authenticity about them that I don't know where he found some of these casts. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I actually do know one thing. He found a lot of people. That's why he had these lineups. He found people with faces.
Yeah.
To two things. One, the cast, the central principal cast, and then everybody else.
Right.
watching the movie, I looked at these faces and paid attention to these faces, and you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find these people?
I have no
Where
idea.
did they come from? How did you cast these people? Did you even pay them? Because you know, in Italy, people would work for free just to be in a Fellini movie as an extra.
Probably,
and these people were not actors.
Yeah, no way.
They were not.
Even the teachers had these such distinctive. I mean, it was almost. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. You know, it's like, where did he go? I have no clue. But it's quite remarkable.
To me, one of the things that makes him stand out. And if you look at his films, they're not from 2021, where you have the ability to spend all this time and money going to central casting services and finding all these people. This was a different time. It wasn't that organized. It was, you weren't making masterpieces, but they were really raw and working in crazy ways. But the people that were in the movie as principal actors, some of them, I'm looking at the names here, like Magali Noel.
Yeah,
Turkish actress. She was an actress. And Pupella Maggio, she was a brilliant theater actress, and you can tell but she did a lot of acting, theatrical work. And I believe the husband also, Armando Brancia, he also came from a theater background. So he did have these actors that were super, theatrical, and they could pull off these characters.
Well, yeah, everyone's so distinctive. Everyone really, pops out. I mean, the whole film is just these fragments of life and behavior and experience, and it can be frustrating if you're, as you said earlier, you struggled with them when you were younger because they weren't conventional, and because there's really no, it's not plot driven or even necessarily like complex character study or anything like that. It just goes through the lives of this family and the rise of Mussolini and Nazism and how a coming of age story is really through the son's eyes mostly of all the things that he's just can't get women off his mind, basically. I mean, everywhere he looks, he's looking at women's behinds or he's just absolutely obsessed. And what I also really appreciated is it's not what we're so accustomed, where the women that they were so interested in are like these gorgeous stunning models. They're like that one woman is like this really big woman who works in a tobacco shop, or even like his teacher at one point. And I remember thinking, why is he saying he's so interested in that teacher? But then when I think back to when I was 13, anything that like moved would like you would just be in awe. You would just fall to your knees, because that I just thought I've never seen anyone do that.
Well, interesting you should say the teacher, because I thought the same thing last night. I was like, geez, I remember the women. I just remembered the women being different when I saw it the first 4 times. And now that I'm seeing it again, it's like, they're not attractive, but I think that's the point.
Exactly.
That what you just said is that anything at that age. And I do know I don't know for a fact, but I know that was not his friend. That was Fellini, because Fellini was
probably
with behinds and breasts. There's a whole book he's drawn. I have it in my living room. It's a whole book that's all illustrations and sketches. Everything is like the round butt, the large breast. That movie to me is Fellini's fantasy of what he was like, what he looked at as a boy. Well, maybe with his best friend, but that was Fellini's eyes. He really did see butts and boobs everywhere he went. And it was just incredible that he picked the woman with the largest breasts for that scene.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was just, I know there's a lot of Fellini in it. He says it's his friend's life, but I'm sure there was a lot of Fellini in
there. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it was. He really pokes fun at the church, Catholic Church in this as well. So
the church, You know, Fellini wasn't political. He didn't
Yeah.
have, wasn't, he never, you could look it up. He never was a political guy. He even talked about it with me during our 1 hour. It's not in my show, but he's not political. He didn't care about, you know, I'm going to carry the flag for this or that. He pokes fun at politics in this movie, the whole fascism thing, and he pokes fun at religion. And a lot of it, this is his, I believe this is his upbringing, as it was for people of that generation, where they didn't question. Their parents forced them to go to church and believe everything that the priest said. Right. Meanwhile, as you saw in the movie, the priest is completely distracted.
Oh yeah,
paying attention.
He's more interested in the floral arrangements, and he's just kind of going through the motion. Yeah, Hail Mary, or hey, did you touch yourself? And you know, it's so funny. And then the uncle who in the mental, who they take out of the mental hospital. I mean, it's like a farce, but it's like it's such a tragic scene to think that this guy who's mentally ill, and sure enough, then he pees in his pants, and he's saying he wants a woman. He's up in a tree. It's just, you know, that would be like horrific in life, but yet here it plays on both, you know, every scene really. I mean, even the way in which the parents are fighting with the kids. I mean, if you were there, you would think this is I gotta get out of here. But to watch it, it's so funny yet so you know, dramatic at the same time. It's amazing how he had. I mean, and anybody watching can take to it in so many different ways. He's not just giving you this straight and arrow point of view. You know, I mean, did that pop out to you? That
well, you brought something up that did stand out for me that I didn't notice before, is the part about the uncle that was mentally ill. And I view mental illness a lot differently now than I did the other times I saw the movie. And I have a real connection to it now. So I was a little bit taken back by it. I know it's going to sound strange, but I was a little bit taken back by it, because you're right. You laugh at it, but if you know somebody or you have a family member, it's not that funny. But the purpose of it being in the movie is that I realized last night, because I had to figure it out, going, well, come on, this, you know, is, wait a second. He keeps repeating, I want a woman.
Right, yeah.
Get me a woman. And all these young kids want in the movie, this coming of age, is a woman.
Yeah. So he's stuck in that same age.
He's stuck in that same age. It was like he probably was not well starting at a young age in puberty. This must have hit him. And he's just always been stuck in that and probably never had any.
Right.
Because he probably was confined to this institution.
Yeah.
And so he lives in that world of get me a woman. And then who saves them out of the tree is this nurse.
Yes, yeah. And he didn't throw the stone at her. All the guys who tried to save her, he's throwing. And then a woman goes up and he doesn't do anything. He just gently went with her.
And she wasn't a voluptuous woman. She wasn't a beautiful model. You know, she was this, you know, nurse and went up and saved him and brought him back and listened to her. It was very sad.
Yeah.
It was very funny the other times I saw it. But the point to me that I took away, as I said before, is he wants a woman, and he's stuck in puberty, and please get me a woman, which is all that, you know, these other young men want. Yeah. And anyway, that part really played differently for me when I saw it. But as far as one of the things I wanted to go back to is previously, you know, early on when I first saw it, when I didn't get it, I really wasn't aware of fascism.
Right.
Exactly what fascism was. And so when I went to Italy and I knew, seeing it under also that and going, oh, okay, I know who these people are now, and I know what this political party is now, and I know what they believed, and I know that it was very different for me seeing that as well. Yeah. And then seeing how Fellini pokes so much fun at it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I almost thought of something. If you've seen Inglourious Basterds,
yes,
with Quentin Tarantino's film, where he pokes fun at the Nazism. He goes to a Quentin Tarantino extreme.
Yeah.
Fellini sort of went to his extreme with all that, you know, fanfare of you know, and this, it was so much poking fun at it.
Yeah.
But it's a fine line.
Yeah.
Like when they're questioning him, all these questions, it was just so ridiculous. And I'm thinking, did Quentin Tarantino think I could take that and go one step further than?
Well, but yeah, possibly, yeah. Because I mean, you know, so much of, I'm not the biggest Tarantino fan, but I know often he's all about like the homage of other films, and you know, it's almost scary in a sense that even though we're watching these like military parades of Mussolini and these big like statues of him, and he's going to the schools and making sure all the kids are going through these ridiculous like little acts for him that they're timed and choreographed and everything, and to think that actually in some parts of the world that does still happen, you know, and it's like, wow, I mean, it's kind of scary. It's like truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. I mean, that's what's so incredible about a film like this, that it's you know, as you said, you can watch it and just laugh without really understanding, oh, wait a minute, this person's mentally ill, and then see it later and then laugh, but maybe feel guilty that you're laughing about it. And it's not that he's making fun of anyone. I think he's really saying something about being stuck in a certain adolescents, you know, and then these people are not educated as well, you know, they're from a small town, and you empathize because you know that, you know, they only know they're only equipped, you know, to know so much.
I want to ask you what you thought about the ending. When she, you know, marries this fascist guy, I was always kind of let down by the ending because it's not really her story.
Right.
So the fact that it ends on that, and sort of the weather's changing again, it was very sad. And it was very sad that she married this fascist because this is what she wanted. But at the same time, I don't know, it left me, as it has in the past, just left me kind of sad. And I thought, is this what he intended? Like, was this really the ending he wanted? And I can't find that anywhere. I can't find the ending, you know, debated or discussed anywhere to say, was this what he intended? It's just kind of left me going, maybe there was a better ending, maybe there's a different ending, maybe it would have been more on the young boy and not on her.
Yeah.
That wedding was kind of a debacle. It was like, you know, the weather and the thing, and I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because you don't see the point of view of someone being like horrified by that. So then the audience would then understand that what the story is saying, that, oh, this poor woman, she's marrying a fascist and she's not even aware of the evil behind that. But I think he's sort of, he also, everyone is also looking for the young boy, because they keep saying, where's such and such? Oh, he left, or it's not. I don't know if he was, if that was sort of a point of view of that the boy has left because of what's happening. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if he's provoking the audience to be involved and have their own feelings about that. You know, in the 1970s, as you know, it was really just bringing people into that world, and this is what it was, instead of kind of giving it any sort of message or strong point of view. I suppose we're seeing people who are, again, you know, from a small town, don't really know any better. They're stuck in a certain age, and they're all this craziness that the audience is laughing at. They don't think is funny, you know. Perhaps that's the tragedy of it. You know, that's what I thought. You know, but I know it's sort of it leaves you with a feeling of Like, but
exactly.
he makes it hard. He really makes that hard for you, which is bold.
I didn't know how to
Yeah.
handle it. I said,
Yeah.
okay, so, and then I went and put all the pieces together, and I said, okay, so she's enamored with the fascista, guy, because that's who's in power right now. So I love a man in a uniform,
Yeah.
Oh, look at him. And that's kind of what I got from that. But the family, they were not fascists at all. And so, they were.
Yeah, because the father, that's why he got arrested.
Exactly.
They brought him in, right? And
yeah. And then I thought, well, are they coming together? What is going on here? It didn't make sense to me. But it was the mood of the piece at the end. I had chills. There was like, you could feel the weather, you could change, and you could feel the wind. There was just so much sensory going on, sensations going on watching that ending. And it was different than everything else in the movie. There were moments like when it snowed, and stuff, you did feel it in your body, but the ending to me was cold. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be.
I think so, yeah. I think so. It's more about the cinematography and the feelings within that. Like even when it's from the young boy's point of view, even when he goes into the movie theater and he keeps changing seats. I mean, it's just there's something so romantic about it, like the blue coming from the screen, and it's dark, and the cigarette smoke, and then at the end, yeah, you're right, it's just gray. I mean, it's just like a crummy wedding. So I think he's really provoking you. I mean, I can't imagine someone doing that now. I think you would have to have a strong point of view saying we condemn this behavior or something naturally. But it's hard to say. I mean, I think they were just so bold back then and just wanted to include the audience in maybe making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel angry, and what do you do with this, but he certainly is not saying this is good.
No, not saying that at all. In fact, it's so cold that it leaves you cold. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh no, did she? Because you know why? Because what we knew in '73, when he made the movie, what he knew, what we, the world knew about fascism in '73 was very different than when fascism was alive and thriving in Italy. So when he made the movie in '73, and for future generations to watch it go, oh no, she's doing what?
Right.
Marrying a fascist. Oh no, fascism, she's going to learn real fast that this is not going to be good for the country.
It basically doesn't even end. I mean, the movie doesn't really no ending. There's really no quote unquote plot either. I mean, it's just, I feel like I'm just there, I feel like it's just, you're with these people. He even has that narrator, I think he was the guy connecting the past to the present. He knows all about history and poetry. I don't know why did you have any ideas as to what he was doing there? Was he just saying
I found something so fascinating about him. When I watched the movie previously, I never noticed there was a narrator.
Oh, really?
But he is like the narrator in our town.
Yeah.
A story to tie back to us with Moose. So when I wrote Moose originally, it was this family. They were looking at the moose outside and commenting on him.
Right.
The moose was never a character in the play. So I wrote him as being outside. And so I worked with my director, and he's also a dramaturg. And Peter said, and this was early on, this was before it was a 2-act play. He said, you can't have the moose outside. The moose has to be a character. And I said, no, the moose is not going to be a character in my play, ever. Just like I was never going to be Fellini. The moose is never, there's my arm always being twisted. The moose is not going to be a character, so don't even go there. It's going to be a joke. No one's going to believe this. I'm not doing it. So fast forward, it became a character. He became a character. And I said, how do I put this moose in my play? And Peter said to me, he's going to be the narrator, like in our town. He is? So I went and pulled out Our Town Again. It's sitting back there. You know, these are things that you bring with you everywhere you go, your place. And I'm like, I don't remember how that worked. And you read it and you go, okay. So last night, completely forgot. There was a narrator in this piece.
Yeah.
And there was one line that he said that was on it was ADR. And I really believe it was Fellini's voice. Because the guy who narrates sounds a little bit like Fellini's real voice. It's not Fellini narrating, but if there was one line and I said, I think that's Fellini's voice.
Yeah.
He's like done the ADR line or something. Anyway, or added it in after, I don't know. So I thought, wow, there's a narrator in this piece, because without the narrator explains some of the things going on. And just like in my play, the Moose explains, because there were people early on in my development phase that did not understand why these people spoke with thick Italian accents in Canada after 35 years. And I had to explain it to them. And so I said, okay, I'll incorporate that into the Moose's character and make him, as he's the narrator, he'll explain some of this stuff. So after all these years, here I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking, there's a narrator in this movie. He explains as we go along some of the things we need to know. They're little crumbs of information. So I actually really enjoyed him. I loved hearing his voice and having him come out, because I heard Fellini's voice in there.
Yeah, I like that too. I think it, I took that as these people don't really know what's going on, but I do, so I'll
He's telling us for them, because they're not able to really tell us what's going on. And I think part of it is true that Fellini left a lot of stuff, his fantasy. He wasn't just a filmmaker. If you see his art books, he was a doodler and an artist and a illustrator, and he just kept drawing all the time. So all this stuff was going on in his head, and the only thing I can think of what was going on in his head was the circus. The circus was always going on in his brain.
Yeah.
And if you think about the characters, these are people from a circus. In all of his movies, they're in the circus. They're at the fair. They're in a traveling minstrel circus show. They are the music.
Yeah, it very much felt like it had that 8.5 feel. Yeah.
It has that kind of circus feel, even in the music in this. And dreamy.
Very much so. Yeah.
You're dreaming. And so you think about it, dreams.
Yeah.
They don't make any sense.
No.
And Fellini was really big on his dreams. His dreams were a big part of his life.
Yeah, he would write them every day, I believe.
Exactly. His dreams written, his sketches, his drawings, the colors, his brain, all of this was going on in his head. It's just like, how is this happening?
I know. Even the scene where they go to see the SS, the Rex, that big boat. Like I totally didn't even realize how that. I thought they were on water and shot it, and apparently that was all on I'm sure that was all in Cinecittà, and the waves were just like plastic. And if you look really closely, you can kind of tell it's artificial. But he could just make anything. He could just make even something like that look so dreamlike, but yet real at the same. I mean, it's surrealism, right? So he just, I don't know how, it's just incredible how he waved the two.
But did you get that was real or a dream? I was trying to figure out, was that for real or was that a dream?
It's hard to say. I'm not sure, because then the woman, the woman who marries the officer at the end, that's when you get an insight to that she's wants to basically get married and have children. So in a way, maybe that's her dream. And it is really, and that's ultimately, but why the boat? I don't know. I mean, I don't know why that was something. It's a tough film. It's a really. I
thought for a moment there, at that time, the movie that was set in, people were immigrating, and the thing were the big boats, the big yachts, the big cruise ships, the big, transatlantic ocean, boats. So like the one my parents came in on and my grandfather, and they weren't flying 747s or planes like that, commercial aircraft. So people,
Right.
I used to go watch the planes take off when I was a kid. And I thought, is this what they did? They watched the new ship be, placed in the water so that it could cross the ocean.
Yeah, it's like a night out for them.
It was a night out. Let's go see this. They're going to put this big, huge boat in the water. It's going to go to America. It's also like a dream thing, because it's like, are we ever going to go? Are we ever going to get to America? Are we ever going to be on that? And I thought, is this a dream, or is this something that Fellini and his friends actually did? Did they go and hang out in the water on a little boat, a little dinghy on the side, and watch them do this, so that it was the launch for this maiden voyage that was going to take place? I don't know. I was questioning that, because it was the only moment to me that I went, now where the heck did that come from?
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was trying to tie it into the movie in fantasy. Does that symbolize taking off? Does that symbolize rough waters? What is that? Anyway, those are the two moments. The ending, which was cold, and that particular moment were the only moments that I went, there's something I need to investigate here. And
well, that's what's so interesting about a film like this, is that it's so subjective. It's really open to how one sees it, but it's a great film. I mean, I'll definitely see it again, because it's something you have to go back to. I mean, I'm like that with all of his films. 8.5. Every time I say 8.5 again, or La Strada, I always see so much more. They offer so much more than the conventional, one and done. And every time you see it again, you have the same experience, more or less. It's a tough film, but yet is so funny and tragic and so emotional at the same time. It's not just a pure intellectual exercise, it offers so much.
Do you think that for us, the funny scenes are way more funny for us because we understand that culture? Because I was reading the reviews that are through the roof, insane how much they love this movie at the time. And they're not Italian names. And I wonder how they perceive the humor in that. Like when I see the table scene, I don't laugh, I cry. I laugh so hard, I am crying. And I see things in it that maybe somebody who's not Italian doesn't see. And yet I look at the reviews, I look at the recognition and the accolades of this movie, and I go, wow, I don't think they saw what I saw or what you saw. There's no way, because they've never witnessed that scene at home. They've not sat at a table like that with their Italian family. And then I go, maybe they sat like at that table with their things. So I told my husband what I'm telling you. And he said, Dina, don't you remember when people came to see Moose? They were from Iran, they were from Greece, they were from India, they were from Saudi Arabia, they were, French. They came up to you, and what did they say to you? This is my family.
Yeah, it's universal.
It's universal. Yeah. And so as much as I love the Italian version, I don't put it in English, I just watch it with the Italian. As much as I love what they're saying in Italian, I know that people who are not hearing it in Italian and don't understand are missing out on so much humor that's there. Little words, little gestures, little things like that. It's not the same to somebody who's not. But the scene, the setting is familiar to other cultures.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I feel so privileged to be able to understand the subtleties in Italian.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That pushes it over the edge. And maybe that's why I cry, I laugh so hard.
Yeah.
It resonates with.
There's that extra something special for people who are actually from that culture. But I mean, it just goes to show you that we're all so crazy. We're also, in a good way, we're also just, you have to sort of embrace how dysfunctional we all are. Part of this film is sort of celebrating that. I don't, and that I mean, I think that family ultimately loves each other. I mean, when you see the mother die, you see the father alone, right, in the kitchen, And it's interesting because as the son walks by, they don't talk. And, you know, because I don't think they were equipped to hug or, oh, it's okay. And that's sad too. I've seen that kind of behavior where, you know, something like that happens and there's no word. So it's quite something.
Oh my gosh, you reminded me of something. So the hospital scene with the father and the mother, you said they weren't equipped. That moment where he's there, I'm gonna start crying. He was there visiting his wife. He didn't know what to say to her.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to say, I love you. You
Yeah.
know, he wanted to say, thank you. You know, he wanted to just make it real and human, and he just tried his best. And I remember when my grandmother was dying in Thunder Bay, and she had cancer, and my grandfather was at the hospital. And this is a couple that comes from that culture. This is who they are. The, you know, yelling, screaming, you know, never really saying, I love you.
Right.
Love of my life. Thank you for everything you did. That's not of that world.
Exactly.
And I remember my grandfather with his little hat that he took off, you know, and he was there visiting, and he knew he wanted to say those things, but he couldn't. It's just not who they were.
Right.
But his presence there and his uncomfortableness was him saying, I love you and I thank you. He knew she was dying. And I remember he brought her some soup, like broth in a jar from home. And it was so emotional. It was his way of saying, I love you. Look what I brought for you, but without saying it. And last night, watching this movie again, that really hit home. It was like, woo, because the last time I saw this movie was before my grandfather even died. And I remember when my grandmother was alive, and that I remember that moment. And I know that when I say Moose, when he says, you know, we love each other. Maybe not the way you see love in the movies, but we love each other. Mm-hmm. I reflect back to that scene in the hospital with my own grandfather and my grandmother. And last night when I saw this movie, I went, oh my gosh, that scene is him so uncomfortable. And when you said the word you said, they're not equipped to do that, you hit it.
Yeah.
He wasn't equipped with his wife. He wasn't equipped with his children. It's just a different time, a different culture.
They're not comfortable being vulnerable. That's why the only thing he talks about is the fact that there's a nice garden outside. And I just thought, again, making it so, like, not intentionally, but there's something funny about that at the same time, as well as your heart goes out to them, and it's very emotionally charged. And there's no one talks about anything that would sound emotional. If you read it on the page, look at this great garden, you know, it's like, but that's just life. And I've seen, you know, in my own family, when, you know, people pass and you don't know what to say sometimes, right? You just kind of make some conversation. So, wow, it's something else. But this is on the Criterion channel, if anyone hasn't seen it, which is a streaming service I absolutely adore, and you can see it there. And but this has been great, Dina. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed you opening up about your life and how you met Fellini and talking about your feelings about the film. It was a great pleasure. So thank you so much.
Really wonderful. Thank you for having me. It really gave me a chance to revisit life, Italy, revisit even my own play, and the fact that we're connected, you know, through Moose.
Yeah.
And you doing a wonderful job at the Magnus production.
Oh, thank you.
Hilarious. And it just brought it all together. So thank you very much. This really fell from the sky, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, absolutely. My pleasure. Well, yeah, you'll have to, I hope you can come again sometime, and we'll talk about another Fellini, anything, Italian Fellini, what have you.
Absolutely.
And those of you watching, thanks so much. If this is your first time here, if you can please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. You'll see above my head the Robert Bellissimo at the Movies logo floating right here to your top left. Just click on that logo and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release a new video or when I go live. Thanks so much, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.